The Connection Show. Inspiring hope, health, healing. Sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops. Live with Jill Reynolds. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like our page. Share it. Subscribe to it now and click the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming shows.
The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing, sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops Live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Michele Perry Roberts. Welcome to the show, Michele.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'd like the audience to know a little bit about you, so I'm going to read just a shortened version of your bio. So Michele got a second chance of life in 2013. She had a major medical condition that almost cost her her life. She spent 9 months in the ICU, 6 months in a skilled nursing facility, and 5 years of home health at home. She has been diagnosed with several chronic illnesses, including muscular sclerosis, fibromyalgia, lupus, and other chronic diseases. She has never been her diagnosis. Michele failed all traditional Western medicine and incorporated a holistic approach to heal her body with proper nutrition. She is now in remission, and she has overcome much, including the loss of a child and her sister. So with that, we'd love to get to know a little bit more about your journey of healing and wellness, Michele. And so on the Connection Show, we like to begin with sharing a little bit about your story. We believe that many people's story has an essence to help other people's lives transform. So if you're willing to share the good, the bad, and the painful memories of childhood with the audience to see how that led you into the person you are today and what you're doing today. So if you could take us back to your youth and then bring us forward.
I would love to. Yes, I was brought up in Reno, Nevada. My parents divorced when I was like 5 years old. And so I had a dad who basically I had to become the best skier, the best tennis player, the best at everything. And then I had a mom who was had me in modeling and dance. But it was always going back and forth between both parents my whole entire life. And I always was, criticized by both of them because I was never good enough in their eyes. And that's how I developed being an anorexic and a bulimic for over 30 years. I thought that was the way, if I could control the way I ate and, look the part, that basically would be accepted. And that's kind of what led to the journey of me getting a second chance of life, because I had a hiatal hernia surgery. But basically to fix the flap for GERD, and that almost cost me my life. And yes, I have had a lot of challenges in my life. I'm a breast cancer survivor. I'm also have lost my son. He was a stillborn, and life has always been to me God's assignments. I've had these things happen in my life, but I've always come out on the other end and have been able to help so many people. I worked in healthcare for over 30 years, managing different hospitals, doing support groups for cancer patients, to diabetics, to heart disease, lots of patient education, and also how to navigate through the healthcare system. So my entire journey has always been to show people that you can come out of a situation. I've always been positive and motivating and never kept one rock unturned regarding my diagnoses, because traditional medicine did not work for me. I ended up getting a JC virus from a IV called Tysabri that I used to have to get every month, and it was a brain-eating amoeba. So when you get that, you're like, okay, I got to look at alternative. And that's when I really got into, I had 2 stem cell transplants done on my body. And then I also found out about customized DNA nutrition. You take your DNA and you get vitamins made for your body. And that's why I'm all healthy these days, because I live every day being strong. Adversity has always been in my back pocket. I've never given up, and I just keep going. But the biggest thing, more than anything, I've been able to help so many people, because being a positive, motivating person has been my life journey. And when you get a second chance, if you want to do it so differently this time, I don't want to be the old Michele I never felt I was good enough. This Michele, I know I'm good enough, and I am lovable, and I know God brought me back for a reason. And he puts people in my life that it never seems to fail. Every day I pray, I say, God, please put somebody in my life that I can help, show them a different path. And he always does, whether it be a young girl at the coffee shop who's my waitress every day. I helped her get into a rehab program, and she's doing really well now. Or another friend who, through her adversity, she was getting super sick because of mold, and got her out of her apartment. And I told her, you can't give up. You got to fight for what's right. And the biggest thing with me is my relationship with God. He has definitely, when you've seen him and you're just like, I'm sorry, I have to return you because you still have more work to do. So that has been the most joyous experience of my life, because every day is a different day. Mm-hmm. I get to work in a modality that I love. I work in a lot in health and wellness space. I'm working for a doctor in Reno, Nevada, who helps get people healthy. He's a holistic doctor, and running, some of his programs on Lyme's disease and other diseases, that people can really heal your body with the right protocol.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And then share a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, if we can go back a step. So at what age did your eating disorder start that you recall? What was your...
It started when I was 12 years old.
12 years old. And it began first with anorexia.
Correct.
Okay. And then when did it progress into bulimia?
In high school.
So
a freshman in high school.
Okay, so around 14. So for about 2 years, you were in starvation mode, and then did you go from anorexia, did you go into binge eating and then purging?
Yes.
So you went into binge eating and then purging. And then how, you said you had that, you were into your eating disorder about 30 years. So when
Correct.
you got when you started to heal, did you go into an eating disorder treatment center for recovery?
I did.
Where did you go?
In Reno. It was called the Center of Hope.
Center of Hope. Okay, I'm familiar.
Yeah, after I got out of my treatment,
Mm-hmm.
I went there, and then I found out, oh my gosh, I'm not that bad.
Well, I don't think I'd go that far to say that on air, because when someone says they're not that bad, then it minimizes the eating disorder. And I myself am recovered now for 8 years from eating disorder. I started at 5 years old, chewing and spitting, and then I went into anorexia after a date rape, and then into binge eating and restrictive avoidance disorder. So I've been to treatment 5 times, and it's a deadly disease. It's a disease. It's not willpower, and many people need treatment many times over before they're healed from it. And so in 12-step recovery, I always love the slogan that says, look for the similarities and not the differences. So I think it's so important for listeners not to think mine isn't that bad, because many times we think it's not that bad. And I think it's really important to call a renowned eating disorder treatment center and do an assessment with professionals, and have the professionals consult you to see if they feel like the level of care you need is inpatient, partial, or if you could just do treatment outside of a treatment center. So it's so important, because the eating disorder does take away the nutrients in your brain. And obviously, when you're purging, it can definitely damage and give you esophageal cancer, and it also can destroy the lining of your GI tract and your intestinal tract. So it's not something to mess with at all.
Yeah, it's not. And even after having, when my stomach kind of blew a blood clot, my esophagus was separated from my stomach for 2 years, and I was fed through TPN.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn to eat again.
Mm-hmm.
And that was quite the challenge.
Yeah. And so how long now have you been completely purge-free and binge-free?
It's been 9 years now.
9 years, okay. And did you continue therapy after you were discharged from treatment?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And I learned a lot of it. I learned that I was enough. That was my biggest whole growing up, because my parents and grandparents basically told, oh, you have white pants on, or you have the wrong colored shoes on. It was always about appearance.
And did you go just to Center of Hope, or did you go to other treatment centers as well?
I just went to Center of Hope.
And how long were you there for?
I was there for 90 days.
90 days. Okay, good. Good. And so today you're working in wellness, and I saw on your website that that you partner with Euphoria. I'm very familiar with Euphoria, and the DNA philosophy, and the wellness. And so there's so many. I'm also a wellness partner myself, Michele, with Amari Global, the mental wellness company, which the nutrients really help you with mental wellness, and especially when you've had an eating disorder or anything that has damaged your intestinal tract. It's so important to heal the gut lining, and
Correct.
It's so important, though, when your gut lining has been damaged, to heal the brain too. And then we forget that the heart is another center. So I love the Amari products because they heal the gut, brain, and the heart simultaneously. And they now have products for mood that really help anxiety depressive disorder as well. So it's really a phenomenal nutrient. So I do believe that nutritional products and wellness can be with food and supplementation as well.
Correct. Because I have a hard time absorbing food. So that's one thing with Euphoria. They've gotten into gut health now too. So they've definitely done a lot of changes in the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's been really helpful, because that I know that a lot of diseases happen because of the gut. You look back, and definitely what I did of having MS and fibromyalgia, and I wasn't ever eating right. I wasn't taking care of myself, and a lot of stress, and I wasn't dealing with a lot of my pain and suffering from losing my son.
Mm-hmm. And when did that occur? When did you lose your son?
In 1994.
And how many months was he inside the womb?
9 months.
Oh, wow. So
I was going,
you went
my
full
last,
full term. You went full term.
Yep, my last OBGYN appointment, she didn't see a heartbeat, rushed me to the hospital, and unfortunately I had to give birth through Pitocin. And it's just things that you never want anybody to experience.
And then were you able to have children after that, or no?
No, ended up having to get a hysterectomy like 5 years later.
That's such a shame. And then you lost your sister as well. And how did that occur?
She died at 2 months old from SIDS.
And did you have other siblings as well, or no?
Yeah, I have a brother, 2 brothers, a half brother and a real brother.
Yeah. So lots of grief, lots of loss, lots of emotional pain of not being good enough. And those burdens stay with us. I really believe that the Bible talks that there's can be 4 generations of burdens or curses or sin passed on generationally. And so it's so important to do burden release work. I do transformational coaching myself, Michele, helping people to release burdens and take those burdens all the way back 4 generations so that blessings can come in to your life and you can be set free and really get out of bondage. And so I love burden release work, and yeah, so that's just something that I think it's so important to work on the emotional, physical, and spiritual. And that's why one of our sayings here on the Connection Show is hope, health, and healing. Hope is in Him. Health is health is in our body for the Holy Spirit to live inside of us, and healing should be from the mind, body, and soul. And so I think it's so important to look at all three of those words.
And it's very, very important to look at all those. That's how you heal yourself in so many ways.
Yeah.
It's one thing I've learned through all this, through all the different counseling. I've done a lot of stuff that you teach, and that was going back generations, going, whoa, this is the way my mother grew up and her mother grew up. And you learn so much when you cut that rope in your mind and learn that there's a different way to be. You live a happier life.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to show the audience your bio here so that they can see it one more time. So this is Michele Perry Roberts, and it's got her email address on there. So if you'd like to learn more about what she does, you can reach out to her and connect with her on a personal level. So I just want to thank you so much, Michele, for taking time to give us a quick introduction to who you are and a snapshot into how you've moved along in your journey of hope, health, and healing. So thanks so much for joining us today, Michele.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining us on the Connection Show and Braveheart Workshops. Have a wonderful day. Thanks again for joining us. Bye now.